Hi, Jason here for Chosen DTG Karate and the Art of Nin Taijutsu, and I have a special video for you here tonight. Now, this is an interview from the Demzly show. Now, one of the first things Demzly asked about and talked about was me turning my home into a dojo, and what made me want to do it. Now, before I found Master Park Chosen Ninja, I had been out of training for a few years. I left the Bujinkan and moved up to Mount Hood to snowboard and seek that full time. I started getting back into training after I was up here a couple years when I started finding Master Park's videos, and he inspired me to start training again. And these weapons were all in totes in the other room, dusty, sitting there not being used. And when I brought them out this time, I decided I wanted to bring them out for good, and I don't ever want to put them away and see them dusty again. So the reason that the house looks like a dojo is because of the inspiration I got from Master Park and everyone affiliated with Nin Taijutsu, and now I feel like it's here for life. Now, there's a Bujikan 2 hours away from me, maybe an hour and a half away, but with the harsh elements that I live in and the gas money and the time, I'm not going there to train. Now, that's part of the reason I wanted a dojo in my own home. I wanted to have a place that I could train in all the time. Now also, the winters here are very severe if you see my snowboarding videos, and it was impossible for me to have a place to train year-round unless I turned my home into a dojo. So if you've seen my first videos, I just moved a coffee table and that's what I had. And slowly over time, I got rid of every piece of furniture, bought more mats, bought all the weapons out, bought things, made armor, and turned it into what you see here today, my own home dojo. And by having a home dojo, I can't ever get away from it. I come home from work, I'm in a dojo. I wake up, I'm in a dojo. So therefore, I feel like martial arts are in my mind 24/7, and I feel like my whole mind is engaged in Budo and the art of Bujitsu, the warrior arts. Now, it took a lot of hard work to build this little dojo and to buy everything. I spent approximately $2,000 on everything to make the dojo, the punching bag, the mats, etc. In addition to the dojo this year, I hope to have a full suit of real Yori, a full suit of real samurai armor. It'll weigh 60 pounds, and it'll be similar to this here, and I hope to have that in my dojo here soon too. But living in a dojo, I end up eat, sleep, breathe ninjutsu 24/7. And Demzly wanted to know what my sign was. I am a Scorpio, by the way. Now, the next question you asked me was how I got into martial arts. Now, like all kids, I seen Bruce Lee, but mainly it was Sho Kosugi and Enter the Ninja, Revenge of the Ninja, Ninja 3. Those movies, I really was fascinated by the ninja and the Japanese warrior. I never was into samurais too much as a kid, but mainly ninjutsu. And I just started researching and getting books and things as a kid. And then when I went to college and when I was 19 years old, I actually found a Bujikan school and was like, oh my God, here's the real Japanese ninjutsu I was seeking. Also, as a kid, I liked making things a lot. So as I learned about the ninja, I started making my own shurikens and different weapons. I've used these chucks in a video. I made these when I was 13 years old out of broomsticks and eye hooks. These were fence posts for rose bushes, and I turned them into size as a kid. So all these weapons I have here, I made these over 20 years ago, and that was part of the fun of ninjutsu too, is actually making weapons myself. Now, the next question you asked me was, what kind of style of martial arts do I like? I like and respect all styles. But what I like to study and my favorite martial arts are Japanese Budo, Bujitsu arts. combat martial arts of the samurai and the ninpo arts, the ninjutsu arts, everything having to do with Japanese martial arts, even karate, aikido. I'm really interested in the Japanese martial arts, but I do appreciate all styles. And one thing I really like about the ninpo arts is there was over 600 ninja weapons, and I practice about 35 different weapons and feel pretty proficient at them. And the next question you asked me was how I pick up a weapon and it looks so natural and it looks like an extension of my hand. Well, I learned unarmed combat before I learned the weapons. I mean, I played with some weapons I made as a kid, but when I actually got into training, I actually learned unarmed combat pretty good before I messed with weapons, because when you're doing your taijutsu, which is your skill of the body, the art of the body, and the tai-hen, it means body movement, these things you do, if it feels kind of good and you pick up a weapon, you'll notice if you have flaws. Now, if you have a flaw in your footwork, which is tei sabaki, and you pick up a long 6-foot weapon with a sword end on it, you're really going to notice your flaws. So if you really get the problems out of your unarmed combat in your taijutsu, you'll feel much more better, and a strike with the hand is no different than if you have a knife or a short sword. So if you master your unarmed combat, you'll master the weaponry too. Now you asked who I would recommend. Now, if you want to learn about real Budo and traditional ninjutsu, I would recommend the Grandmaster himself, Soke Hatsumi, the 34th generation leader of Togakure-ryu Ninpo and the founder of the Bujinkan Dojos. Now, some other names I like out there are Anshu from Budo-ryu Ninjutsu on YouTube, Chosun Ninja, the guy I represent, Korean Shinobi. He's someone that you could look into. Ralph Severe for Dallas Ninjutsu, I highly recommend him. For Chucks, I recommend R.C. True. Now, I recommend a lot of people, anyone with Nin Taijutsu, I'd recommend for different martial arts, but that's kind of a long question, so if you have a certain question, just ask me and I'll recommend someone for you. Now you asked if I have a certain training regimen. Now, some days I put the gi on and I have a plan and I'm going to be working on this or that. Some days I wake up and I'm in my sweatpants and I come in here and just look around and I grab a weapon and I start having fun. Sometimes I get a new weapon, like when I first got my Chucks, all I did was Chuck for 3 weeks when I got my new Chucks from R.C. True. When I get a new sword or some Tommy Shigiri mats, I'll be focusing on that. So I don't have an exact regimen. If I had some students here more, I would set up more of a regimen, but I kind of enjoy the freedom of training what I want, how I want, and when I want. And when the snow is good, I'm going to be shredding, so sometimes I'll have to put the weapons on hold. Now, you asked what I like to do for fun. Obviously, snowboarding, riding my BMX bike, training martial arts, being out in nature, staying out of nature when it's bad like now and relaxing with a movie, hanging out with friends, things like that. Now, you asked about my martial arts background and what I want to achieve. Now, I have 6 years in the Bujinkan Dojos. I trained 3 different times for 2 different years at a time. I trained under 3 Shidoshis in 2 different states. Now, the few years between training, I also did solo training, so I have over a decade of, I would say, intense ninjutsu and Budo training. I hold the rank of 4th Kyu in the Bujinkan Dojos and the Shodan in Nin Taijutsu. What I would like to achieve is to ride with Pat Stoddard mounted martial archery, and I would like to learn to shoot bow while riding horses in full samurai armor, real Japanese samurai armor. That is my goal, and it is my lifelong dream. Now, I'd like to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year if I have time, and I'd like to thank the following: Master Park, Dan Bowen, Shinobi Mystic, Wushu Richard, Rick Rogers, the Demzly, Anshu from Budo-ryu Ninjutsu, my 2 main former Bujinkan teachers, Rick Spangler and Mark Vandehay, Ralph Severe, Pat and Bo Stoddard, Kunoichi Jinna and Toshiko, all Nin Taijutsu members, Will Gray 42, and anyone I missed, I'm sorry, but you're all important to me. Have a great holidays.